Ciao, Am. So, today we're going to be learning about graphing systems of linear inequality. So, what does it mean, graphing systems of linear inequality? Let's talk about what we've been talking about for the last couple of days. We're talking about systems. This whole unit is about systems. And what was a system? Remember, like systems, respiratory system, solar system, all those systems, they're actually talking about things working together. We're talking about two lines working together. So linear means lines, two lines working there, and inequalities. Now we're going to do what you did before, but now we're just going to add another component to it, which is inequality. And inequality, what do you have to do differently? You have to shade, and you have to make sure it's dotted or solid. So by the end of today's lesson, this is what you should know how to do. Objective. Given a system of linear inequalities, students will be able to graph both lines, determine if the lines are solid or dotted, and shade the right region. So, you guys ready to get started? So it's nothing too abstract. You have done it before. So let's take a look at this right here. I have two lines. I have the first line and the second line. And basically we're going to graph those two lines and shade the right region. So I have to do each line separately and do one at a time. So I'm going to shade I'm going to do the first line in green. Remember, first of all, every time you graph a line, it has to be in y-intercept form. If you don't remember y-intercept form, it looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. Take a look. Is that in that form? Yes. So we're good to go. So take a look. It's in the right form. I'm ready to graph. When I'm graphing, I have to find two things to graph. I need to find the slope and the y-intercept. So right away I have to go. What is m? What is b? What is the slope? What's the y-intercept? What is the slope? So take a look. Remember, the slope is right here. M is in the same position there, so it's going to be 1/2. What's the y-intercept? The y-intercept is right here, and that right here is -4. So what does that mean? That means when you're graphing this, you start at -4. So I'm going to go down to -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to make my first dot. Then what does the slope tell me? Remember, you have to y-intercept. What does the slope tell me? The slope tells me where to go to the next point. So it's rise over run. So the top tells us where to go, the bottom tells us where to go. Top tells us where to go up and down, the bottom tells us to go where left and right. So this goes up 1, right 2. So up 1, right 2, I make my second dot. I have my line. Before I graph my line, people still make this mistake, and I saw that in the last quiz. You have to ask yourself, is that dotted or solid? And look at the inequality right here. If you look at the inequality, is that equal or not equal? If it's not equal, then it's dotted. If it's equal, then it's solid, right? Solid. So since it's not equal, it's dotted, so I graph my dotted line here. Perfect. Are we done with this? Not really. Now we have to shade. All inequalities you do have to shade. So look at this. Y is less than 1/2. So how do you know which side to shade? I like to just read it. I take a look at this, I just read this part. I ignore the other part and ask myself, is y big or y small? Did Pac-Man eat the y or ignore it? It looks like y small. So where's y small? Is that the bottom or the top? Y is small at the bottom. So you want to shade the bottom here. Good. So you shaded your first line. And you know how to do this already from chapter 1 and 2, or unit, the first unit. Now, we're just going to add another line into it. And what do you do when I add another line? I'm going to graph this line in blue. Same thing. It's in the right form. Good. Y-intercept form. I need to find two things. I need to find my m. I need to find my b. Take a look. What's my m? My m is -2. But we don't want it as a number. We want it as a fraction. That's -2 over +1. What's my b? My b is +1. I graph. I start at +1. I go 2. It's negative, so it means rise over run. It's negative, that means you go down 2 and right 1. So from my point, my initial y-intercept, I go 1 down 2 and right 1. I have my second point. I graph my line. Now before you graph it, you have to ask yourself, is it solid or dotted? And how do you know? Look at the inequality. It's equal, therefore it is solid. So graph your solid line going down. Make it straight just like mine. And now you have to shade. So now read this. Is y small or y big? So it looks like y is small, therefore you shade at the bottom of the line or the top of the line. Y is small, you shade at the bottom. So I'm going to shade here, just lightly shade here. Now take a look. When we're graphing two lines of systems of lines, we're looking at where they cross. When we graph two inequalities, linear inequalities, we're also looking at where they cross. So the section that they both cross is the right answer. So over here, where the blue is alone, you have to erase that. This part right here. This is no green here. This is only blue. You have to look at where they both cross. And you look carefully, they look like they both cross at the bottom only. So this part over here where it's green only, you have to erase that. That is not a solution. So where's your solution? Your solution is only in this area right here. This is your solution. So make sure you shade that in, and this is your only answer. And there you go. You just learned how to graph systems of inequality. How do you guys feel? Great? Alright, you want it a little harder? We're going to do 3 problems total today. Now if you do understand, you can move on. If not, alright, let's take a look at this problem. Same thing, but I'm going to move the equations around. So I have to work at it because it looks like I have to do a little bit of manipulation. So I still have 2 equations here, but then I have to solve for them. So it looks like this one might be a little bit easier doing this one, so I might need a little bit more room, but I'll work on this one first. So on the left, my first equation, I'll call this equation 1. I'll work on it in red. It is not in y-intercept form. So I need to put it in y-intercept form. So how do I do that? I have to make sure it's y. I have to make sure it looks like this. Y equals mx plus b. So I have to get y by itself. How do you get rid of that? How do you get rid of 2/3? You could do one of 2 things. You could get rid of each piece separately, like that says times 2 divided by 3, or you could get rid of it at the same time, which you would actually multiply by the reciprocal. So I like to get rid of it at the same time, so I'll multiply everything by 3/2, both sides, and make sure you hit every component here. So take a look. 3/2 times 2/3 is 1, so that becomes 1y less than, distribute this. This has to get distributed in. So that becomes -6 times 3/2. So that's going to be, take a look real fast, -6 times 3/2. I make them both fractions. Since they're multiplying, this leaves a 1, this leaves a 3. That becomes -3 times 3, which is -9. So that becomes -9x. Over here, 3/2 times 4. 3/2 times 4. Make it 4/1. 4 is canceled, leaving a 2. Leaving a 1. That becomes 3 times 2, which is 6. So I have my first equation. Y is greater than -9x plus 6. Alright, great. So where do I start? I start at +6. I have to find my m. I have to find my b. My b is 6. My m is -9/1. Start at +6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm a little off the chart. So I'm going to put right here on the y-axis. And here's the x-axis. I'm on top right there. I go down 9, 1 to the right. So down 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 to the right. I have my second dot now. Now when I graph my line, is it going to be a solid line or dotted line? Look at the inequality. It is not solid. It is not equal, therefore it's not solid, therefore it is dotted. So graph your dotted line. Make it straight just like mine. I know it's hard. Use a ruler if you need to, but now with every inequality you need a shade. So you read this. Where do I shade? I shade. Is y big or y small? So this one's a little tougher because the line is a little steeper. So how can you tell where is it big, where is it small? So stay on the y-axis, pick a number on top here, and pick a number on the over here. And this is 1. Let's say this is 12. Over here is 12, right? 12 is actually bigger than 1, so this is actually on top, so you want to shade over here. Lightly, because you're going to erase later. Now, I'm going to work on my second equation in blue. Take a look. I'm going to simplify this by distributing. That becomes -2y plus 6x is less than or equal to x plus 4. Minus 6x from both sides. That becomes -2y less than or equal to -5x plus 4. Perfect. I see a negative 2 there. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. Make sure you keep the negatives. That goes away. Y is less than or equal to negative and negative is positive 5 over 2. X minus 2. Perfect. How do you feel about that one? Hopefully you caught the mistake right there. Did you guys see that? Take a look right here. What did I do wrong? Remember, every time you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So right there, I did multiply and divide both sides by negative 2. Yeah, I did not flip the sign. So take a look. I have to erase that and flip the sign to be greater or equal to. Let's take a look now. When we're graphing this, we need to find two things. We need to find m, we need to find b. b is negative 2, m is 5 over 2. Start at negative 2, right here, 1, 2. Make your first dot. That goes 5 over 2. That means 5 up, 2 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2. Graph your second dot. Graph your line. Is this line solid or dotted? Good, this line is solid, so graph your solid line. Now we shade. Look at the inequality. Is y big or y small? Y is big, so where do you shade? You shade on top. So you shade on top. And now you have to look at where they're both shaded. And it looks like they're only both shaded if you take a look in this area right here. So since they're only both shaded here, that means only that section is the answer. And what do you do with the other section? You have to erase it. So erase that section, erase that section. And therefore, you graphed inequalities. Alright, I know it's running a little long. You want to try and do one more? Alright, if you think you can handle this, you can do it on your own. If not, you can watch me do it real quickly. I'm going to try to do this really, really quickly. I'll move this one over here. I'll move this one over here. I'm going to solve for this one real fast. I'm going to distribute this. This becomes 2y plus 3x less than 2y plus 2x plus 3. Then I'm going to subtract 2y to both sides. And you notice when you subtract 2y's, it goes away, leaving a 3x less than 2x plus 3. That's really, really interesting. And that's okay though. Subtract 2x from both sides, x is less than 3. So one of the variables cancel, and that's fine. You know how to graph this. You know how to graph this in 1 dimension and 2 dimensions. How do you graph x is less than 3? First of all, you go on 3 on the x value, and x equals 3 is going to be a vertical line or horizontal line. It's going to be a vertical line. So you graph your vertical line. Make sure it's dotted because it's not equal. And then now you shade a little bit different. You don't talk about up and down now. With x, you talk about left and right. X is small. So where's the small? On the left or the right? X is small on the left, so you shade to the left. Alright, one more time. Over here, real quickly. Distribute, distribute. That becomes 2. Oh. Gotta go. 2 times 3 is 6 over 3y minus 2 over 3x less than negative 1/2 x plus 3. Simplify that. That becomes 2y minus 2/3 x less than 1/2, negative 1/2 x plus 3. Add 2/3 to both sides. 2y is less than. And I'm going to do this on the side. This is going to be negative 1/2 x plus 2/3 x. Common denominator, it looks like 6, so multiply 3 top and bottom here, becomes negative 3 over 6 x. Common denominator is 6, so top and bottom by 2, that becomes 4 over 6x, and that becomes 7 over 6, no, just kidding. That becomes negative, positive 1 over 6x. Negative 3, positive 4 is positive 1 over 6x. So this becomes 1 over 6x plus 3. Alright. Let me double check that. It looks fine before I erase it. I know I'm going a little quickly. I'm trying to rush the time. So if you see me make a mistake, just let me know. Now I could divide by 2. Do I want to divide by 2? No. I want to actually multiply by 1/2. Everything by 1/2. I should use a different color. So that becomes y is less than. That becomes 1 over 12x plus 3 over 2. I'm going to graph this really, really quickly. I only have a couple seconds left. So 3 over 2, that's 1.5 right here. I go Wow, 1 up, 12 over. So 1 up is right here, 12 over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ooh, my second dot right there, graph my line as a dotted line.